Hello YouTube, this is dvdreviewsstudios here, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy on DVD, which in this video I shall be looking over the DVD packaging for all three movies, but more importantly I shall be reviewing each movie. So beginning with The Phantom Menace, this movie came out in 1999 and is arguably the worst movie out of the entire saga. Personally, I give that medal to Attack of the Clones. I really do despise that film, but this film I did enjoy. I mean, it does have its weak points, and definitely more weak points than strong points, but the characters introduced into this, such as Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and the younger version of Obi-Wan, are just really great characters, and I thought the character of Emperor Palpatine, portrayed by Ian McDiarmid, was probably one of the best characters featured in the prequel trilogy, even though his transformation from what he is as Emperor Palpatine into Darth Sidious, the mutated kind of look he has in Revenge of the Sith, was pretty awful, but I shall of course get into that when looking over Revenge of the Sith. But The Phantom Menace, it's a pretty decent film. It does have a pretty great storyline, to be honest. It's just the characters such as Jar Jar Binks and the younger version of Anakin and many other things like that that are pretty terrible in this movie. The dialogue is okay in this film. It's not as strong, but it definitely gets worse in the other two films. And to be honest, I think the worst part of all of this was the pod racing sequence, which was honestly the most tedious and irritating scene in this entire film. It really did drag on and just was not enjoyable in my opinion at all. It was pretty poorly done and just oversaturated with CGI. But aside from that, this movie is pretty fair. The Battle of Naboo was definitely a great scene, even though I'm not really a big fan of the Gungans, since they're all pretty much imbeciles, and especially Jar Jar Binks, which is king of the imbeciles, to be honest. But this film overall, it does have its strong points. I did quite enjoy the character of Queen Amidala. I thought the characters of the Jedi were great, especially at the beginning of the film when they are first introduced. Characters such as design-wise, I mean, I thought Watto was a great character who owns the junkyard. I thought Sebulba was a very interesting looking character. Darth Maul, a very interesting looking character. So this movie does have its strong points. It does definitely have its weak points, however. And aside from the fact that the storyline was fair, some of the good characters were introduced into this. John Williams' theme was actually used in this, especially over the Darth Maul fight sequence. This movie, aside from those points, is pretty poor. So that is The Phantom Menace, a fair film but not great. Next up we have Attack of the Clones, which is my least favourite throughout all of the Star Wars films, and the only sequences that I really do like is the ending scene with the Battle of Geonosis. I thought that was a really great battle. The scene involving Padme, Obi-Wan and Anakin, where they are chained up and they have to fight those three quite ferocious looking animals, I thought that was a really great scene. The fight sequence between Yoda and Count Dooku I thought was fair, and to be honest, that's about it, aside from all the scenes involving Jango Fett, which were pretty fair, even though I thought Jango Fett's demise was just awful. Such a strong, dominant character, and he gets just beheaded so easily. I really did not like that, but I mean, obviously he had to die in some ways, so that was pretty poor for him, but he was a great character and I really did enjoy that. There's the disc artwork for the Attack of the Clones. So the good points of this film I have already listed. The bad points is pretty much everything else. I thought the love story between Padme and Anakin was just vomit-worthy. It was really poorly written. Dialogue such as, "I wish I could wish away my feelings." Really? You're going to put that in a Star Wars film? It just does not really... it just does not work for a Star Wars film, in my opinion. But that's just my thoughts on this film. Some of it's quite good. The scene with the Battle of Geonosis where C-3PO's head gets swapped onto a droid, I don't know what the writers were thinking when they did that. It wasn't comical, it was dreadful. So that's the kind of stuff you are supposedly expecting when watching this film, and that's why I think this one is the worst film out of all of them. And I'm definitely comparing that to the likes of Jar Jar Binks. So yeah, that's pretty much my summary of Attack of the Clones. Next up we have my personal favourite, and that is Revenge of the Sith. This movie is definitely a huge step up in comparison to the other films, and that's as far as writing goes, that's as far as the overall graphics go. This movie is pretty impressive. Obviously, it does have its weak points, and that is more or less focused on the origin of Darth Vader with the comical "no" at the end of the film. That's another thing of, were the writers drunk when they wrote that? The origin of the mutated Emperor Palpatine, or Darth Sidious, whichever you would prefer to call him, was not really great, even though it does sort of obviously answer a lot of unanswered questions. The death of Mace Windu really annoyed me. The death of General Grievous was dreadful, especially the dialogue spoken by Ewan McGregor at the end of that sequence, which was just really cheesy. I mean, the cheesiness in this film is beyond, it's just dreadful, really. I mean, they could have done so much more with this, but the film itself overall was quite enjoyable. It definitely has some really great sequences, such as the fight sequence between Anakin and Obi-Wan at the end of the movie, the opening scene where they were rescuing Emperor Palpatine from General Grievous's ship I thought was a pretty great scene, and other than that, this movie is pretty fair. The love story between Padme and Anakin does fade quite quickly, and obviously is a good thing considering what they did in Attack of the Clones. So the film itself, I thought, definitely had some really great scenes, including General Grievous and the scenes involving him, and definitely the fight sequence involving him and Obi-Wan was just perfection. I thought that was a really great scene, and definitely the best scene out of all three of these movies. It really was just unspeakably great. The origin of Darth Vader, it probably would have been a lot better if watching that on mute, to be honest, because it's, I don't know. I mean, the ending dialogue for Hayden Christensen as Anakin was pretty terrible. Just some things in this film are good and many things are dreadful. It's mainly the dialogue. The oversaturation of CGI isn't too bad in this film, but then again, it's not great. The Order 66 scene was truly spectacular. I thought that was probably the most evocative scene out of all the Star Wars films, where the great music, I believe it could have been from John Williams, I'm not 100%, but the music played over the scene with no dialogue spoken aside from "It shall be done, my lord," was just truly beautiful. I thought that was a really great scene and definitely was very enjoyable. So aside from the few complaints about this movie, this film is pretty well done. It's definitely better than the other two in my opinion, and arguably one of the better Star Wars films. If you want to, you can leave your comments and thoughts below on all three of these films and let me know which one you hate the most. This film is pretty great, and the other two are mediocre. I mean, Attack of the Clones is poor, to be honest. But yeah, so that is my review of the prequel trilogy. I shall now quickly rank all three of these in order of best to worst, which I do have the originals here as well. So the best films, in my opinion, are obviously the originals, and that shall begin with The Empire Strikes Back. Then Star Wars Return of the Jedi, and then Star Wars itself. Then I would probably add Revenge of the Sith, The Phantom Menace, and then Attack of the Clones. So that's my order of best to worst, beginning with, obviously, The Empire Strikes Back. So if you enjoyed this review, then definitely subscribe and leave a like down below for more upcoming reviews. I shall be doing a review in December of the new film number 7, The Force Awakens. I have also done a trailer breakdown and reaction/review of that trailer, so if you want to hit the link below, you can definitely watch that video and see my thoughts on what the trailer is. And you can also check out my review of the original films. So thanks for watching. Please leave a like down below, comment below what your order of best to worst is for the Star Wars films, and thanks for watching.